Hello, everybody. We are back. Welcome to Bread and Wine. So thankful that you keep coming back. If you are new to our community, welcome. We're inviting you to drink wine and break bread with us. And you can see we have a guest with us today. So I am Ntsiki Mkhize.
I am Siviwe Njozela.
And this is our wonderful guest, Nqabisa. Nqabisa, if you can introduce yourself to the people.
Hi guys, I am Nqabisa. I am a salad enthusiast, a runner, and lover of life. And I don't know where I am in terms of my career, but it's like a finance role that oversees. Let's leave it at that.
And she's also the president of the Big Sister Club.
She is. Oh my gosh.
If you ever need a big sister, she is the one. So you guys know how we do. Every week we have a scripture that we base our conversation on. And today's scripture is Ecclesiastes 3. The title is A Time for Everything. And it says, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep, a time to throw away. A time to tear, a time to mend. A time to be silent, a time to speak. A time to love, a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. So that is Ecclesiastes 3 verses 1 through 8. And we are sharing that today because our conversation is centered around how you carve out space and time for yourself, right? And thinking about how we navigate these conversations around life and relationships and business, considering our faith, is going, where are you in your walk and what are the things that you have learned to carve out time in? And we'll unpack those as we go in our conversation. But first, what is on the menu for today? So guys, we're in birthday season.
It
You
was
love it for us. So our bread for this week is these little nice mini cake
They're like
thingies.
some cookie dough situation.
Cookie dough is exactly what they're called. Cookie
Those
dough
like some chopped chip
with
cookie
chopped
dough.
chips, and I think they're vanilla and chocolate. So I'm gonna put these down here in the middle. And because our mama is still expecting her little bambino,
I am.
again we have de-alkalized wine from a sponsor we're waiting to sponsor us.
Yes.
But this is a de-alkalized rosé, which we're going to be sharing because it was Nqabisa's choice. And we love to be good entertainers. So,
Thank you.
you're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, and then you guys need to etiquette job tell you wine is like what. Hey!
That's what I said.
Hey! He's not. And there isn't a thing at the bottom for my finger.
Thing.
So lost me, please.
Don't add me.
Is the
We're just chilling. We're
It's
just
professional
chilling and having
drinkers.
bread and wine. It is so significant for us anyway in our faith. The bread and the wine.
the bread and the wine.
You guys did a wine tour, so I'm sure you saw a lot of this.
Yes.
We did see a lot of that.
But this will swell up because
also another
For
thing when you
vibes.
do
for vibes, right?
a wine
We
tour.
will swirl for vibes.
Yeah, also for vibes. When you do a wine tour, you get like a whole bunch of information all at once.
And then you're
So
like,
then you're just like, yeah, that sounds great. And then like 20 minutes later, you've forgotten.
guys, when are we drinking?
Yes. Okay, so we smell.
Oh,
Smells like candy.
does it smell like candy? I'm
Smells
not
like-
holding mine at the stem.
Yes, because you're heating up your drink. So you
I
smell,
am.
and then do you stir then smell? Guide us.
Doesn't really
Because when you stir, but it
aerates.
it brings the
Yes.
flavors from the bottom
So
to the
you
top,
must
and they
stir.
escape the glass, so you can smell.
Guys, how's my stirring?
That's good to
Without pizza babes. And then you taste, but we should cheers first. Welcome to Bread and Wine, ladies. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. One of the reasons why I brought Big Sister onto the chat is because we won't put all her business out there. But what I love about, and what I really admire about you is in the past, I'd pretty much say this whole year actually, Nqabisa has been transitioning in her career, but from company to company and kind of deciding where she wants to play. And also because she's a big person in terms of justice and making sure voices are heard. Like, she really, like, gives her all. She embodies it, right?
Guys.
And part of that embodiment, I think, came a time where it also gets heavy, right? Because if you're carrying the people around you and no one is carrying you, then where do you go for, like, just release? And then what you did really well was, firstly, Homegirl is super diligent about... I feel like you should have bought the bronze medal. She's super diligent about her training schedule. Okay, she runs, 100%. She swims. Baby girl ran the comrades and she got a bronze.
Oh my gosh! The other day, like, didn't you like come from like going out and then definitely she posted herself busy doing ab workouts at like midnight or something. I took care. I actually wanted to do these at the restaurant, but there are limits and boundaries.
Is it PT? It's not summer. But now this is our voice of a summer podcast in a bikini somewhere.
It's what I'm trying to do. I just want to do an ab workout in a bikini like I see on the gram. When I do that, then I'm done. Then I can retire, guys. Like, okay, thanks.
We are here for it. So what you've done really well is, I think, the fitness stuff is your space for
me.
Nqabisa.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
then you've also gone to therapy as well. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to have our conversation around that because I think a lot of people, whether you are the older sibling or the only sibling in your family that has a job, or you are a single parent, that aspect of carving out time for yourself is so important. And I think a lot of people don't do it until they're burning out.
I also think it's very important to point something out that it's just become like a norm or prevalent in society these days, where you want to be all things at all times, right? So, and it's also covered under this word, which is a toxic positivity word for me, which is balance, right? So you're trying to find the balance between my work life and my personal life and my fitness life and my. When you actually think about that, you're actually trying to be all things all at once, which is quite tricky. And I mean, as the scripture says, there's times for everything. There's actually times. There's times where focusing on one thing is actually more important. It's actually more important for me to make sure that my physical health is taken care of at other times. Sometimes it might be important for me to focus on my career. Like, there's time for everything, as the scripture said. And I think that is a more healthier way to look at your life. And I think probably that's part of what has become your testimony or your life now.
So if I rewind to 6 months ago, which was like the literal critical breaking point, and then before that 6 months was the 4 months prior to that, where it really kind of changed, where I just knew that the work-life balance, because I entered a new career and it was something that I'd obviously prayed about, and I was like, God, like, I really want this, and if you can make it happen, like, I'm gonna be diligent. You're trusting me with it, and I'm gonna be good at it. And I did it, and I was like, okay, you know your girl, she don't stick around for stuff too long, but I'm still gonna be diligent. I was like, okay, let's, as we all do, always make a pact, and we're like, okay, God, we're gonna do this for 2 years, and then a year and a half, I was like, jokes. Let's wind it back. And I was like, this is exactly what I prayed for.
Yeah.
And I kind of did pray for the environment to be not toxic, because like they tell you to pray for that stuff, but you don't see it until like you're in it, and you're like, I actually should have also really, really emphasized that. And what society also does is kind of glamorize overworking. And you're like, oh no, I can't. And then you're like always putting off your friends and the things that you love to do. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. I've got work. And at some point you kind of like stop keeping promises that you made to yourself. You're like, well, I had committed that I'm going to run like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And, now I'm not, because I'm really prioritizing work. And it's nothing wrong to prioritize work if you are focused on the goal and you're like, no, I know this is not going to be forever. It's just for a short season. Like the scripture says, it's just for a short season so I can weather this storm. But as soon as it starts like encroaching, like a lot on your life and you really feel the pressure and everything is upsetting you, small things, big things, like just everything, and it's really overwhelming, and then you almost even then don't even hear God's voice anymore. So the like critical part for me was like, okay, well, the thing that I like to do to de-stress is to run. Now work was keeping me from getting into my runs, which means the way I worship God is through running.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so now I'm not even getting our quiet prayer time together. So I'm like completely isolated. So which means now I need to draw deeper to like have that relationship with God. And then I was, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was nowhere and everywhere, but like most importantly, like lost.
There's so much in that.
Yeah, and I was lucky that another friend of mine actually gave me a devotional, and I think she could also see. She was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Bruh, like I'm going through a lot. Like I'm not even making it to church. Like I just I can't." And she's like, "Okay, cool." And she gifted me with the devotional, and I was like, you know what, if I can't make it to church, at least I can commit to reading the devotional. And that kind of was like...
Was that something that you did before? Or was that something that kind of evolved?
It evolved.
Of the need?
I think, like, as a younger Christian, you kind of... You get, like, swept off your feet when you're a new Christian. You're like, want everything. Hey. Resource me. Yeah. You know, you're here, you're everywhere.
Church 5 times a week.
Your Bible bag is full.
There's no social that you're not at.
Yeah, it's the truth.
You are there. Yeah. You are literally the furniture of the church. You are, in fact, they could give you the keys. Please lock. Because that's how much you are so present and you're seen and you're just...
You're the furniture of the church.
You are the furniture. And then, like, when you now find yourself in that moment of isolation, yes, also you also need to, like, reach out to other people, but if you're not a person who knows how to, it's kind of difficult. Yeah. And you don't know that you're struggling. Yeah. So when you have other friends who are kind of a bit more mature in faith in you, then they kind of see, oh, this is, I would not necessarily call it Christianity burnout, but like literally Christianity burnout. Yeah. And you're like, okay, it's fine. You can take a step back. Let's just...
Yeah, you can breathe.
You can breathe and allow yourself to just go through it, and you know, we'll do like check-ins. And then she's like, yeah, and I was like really appreciative that she gave me that devotional. I took it on holiday with me, and and I had like my little quiet time, and I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to prioritize this, and I did.
I love that.
And then
there's so many good things in there. Can't talk about them. So I just like brief highlights. I love that you said like worshiping with God on the road, because I think sometimes there's a pressure to be like, my worship and my walk needs to look this way. I think for a lot of people, if I'm not in church or if I'm not doing this, then I'm not worshiping. Yeah. And like if you're actually somebody who's a server a lot, yes, you're worshiping by serving, but you're not filling your own cup. Yeah. And filling your cup might be away from church in a different environment where you refill there and then you go to church or wherever it is you're called to serve. So I think that's an important one. Mm-hmm. And then what I want to highlight is, so that route of people going, oh, you're such a good Christian and you're so good at this, and yes, your job and these goals and then there's a rabbit hole of, if you are a person who doesn't know how to ask for help, but I think more so maybe somebody who's an older sibling or the person that people always assume has it together, that then, and I think we spoke about this recently,
yeah, we did,
that asking or calling out for help is almost even more difficult because people have this assumption that you, of all people,
it can't be you.
It can't be you.
And then they also
should have it together.
It's so tough because you kind of get like, from general people, right? So in your case, Nqabisa, this friend who saw your need. Actually, I'm sure other people, I don't know if you felt like this, but like other people, because they don't understand how desperately or your desperate your situation is, you get advice or you get people who might listen or whatever, but they don't take it to the depth that it actually is. Like, you can... And then that also creates such like a feeling in you that feels so like, am I actually okay, or am I betraying myself in seeming like I'm okay all the time? How do I show people that I really actually genuinely need like fundamental help. Like don't look at the person who I've built myself to be. I'm eloquently spoken. I'm this, I'm that, I'm logical, my EQ is high, I'm bubbly, don't look at all those things.
And people are like, oh, she's not happy all the time.
Yeah, because at the core of me, I literally don't know what's going on. Like, treat me like I'm 2 years old.
Yeah.
And help me to build that I need, because I actually don't know. I don't even know how to, like, articulate this. I don't know how to tell you.
I think that's also hard because you're not necessarily saying to people, I'm in financial stress, or I am in work stress, or whatever. It's going, me as a person, and the foundation that keeps me together is actually not foundationing. Like, it's not the structure that's supposed to be there. It's not doing. Yeah, and so people, I think, don't actually know how to help you, or don't know what it is they're supposed to tap into to help you. Because if it was a financial issue, I can give you money, or I can give you financial advice. But then it also
has, like I'm saying now, they have the expectation of you to come and say, oh my gosh, you guys. So you know that whole principle of, like, you're supposed to save your 10%. I haven't been saving my 10%. So this is... They expect you to be able to come and tell them the situation, right? Because you are that person who can speak fine. Like, you've always been able to just clearly say, like, you know, I think they're short and in a little bit. Or you can come back and say, I'm finding myself to be super emotional these days. I've actually tracked it has nothing to do with my cycle. This is what's happening. The
fact that she didn't have to justify that.
No, again, that's how we are so eloquent.
Yeah.
We know how to break it down to the extent, right?
I was crying. It just turns out I'm still a boss girl. I was crying over because
I'm ovulating.
It was there. But I checked those tears, and those tears are done. These are fresh tears.
About something else.
You actually don't even know how to go and tell anyone that. You don't know how to go to somebody and talk to them. And I think it's so significant in what you're saying, Nqabisa, that somebody actually had to see what you couldn't even say, and kind of then come to you and be like, look, I might not be able to, even me, maybe I don't have the words, but you need to find
recognize this in you, and
you actually need to find
this is what you
the
need.
one and only source that can probably get you out of this. And this devotional is just my way of saying, like, maybe take this time.
Yeah. That's really good. The other thing you said was kind of making an agreement with God that I'm going to be in this space for 2 years, and then a year and a half you're like, and I think for me, one is like, I think Siviwe knows I'm for the soft life. The girl is here for the soft life. That I really do struggle with going, I'm being sent into a toxic environment, because I'm like, excuse me, not your loved one, not the one who's beloved of you. And yes, I know that sometimes things are difficult and life has its challenges. What I struggle with, and what to me maybe sometimes feels like toxic Christianity, is this idea that everything should be hard. Like, if you're not being challenged in an environment, you're not being, if the devil's not coming for you, then you're not doing what God has told you to do. And I'm like, guys, what if God has just given me a season of peace? Like, not everything has to be difficult. So I imagine for somebody going, oh, but I really prayed for this job and now my mental health is not good. Can I still back away? Like, am I stepping away from a blessing or a miracle because I'm now, emotionally, physically, psychologically, whatever it is, or even losing my marriage, for people who are in a situation where your work is actually causing more friction than what it is creating provision for your household. How do you go, yes, Lord, thank you for this thing, but
how did you figure? Because also it's like that feeling of, like you said, you prayed for it, right? You prayed for the job and you got the job.
And I'm like, if I prayed for it, everything about it needs to be good.
And then now you're in it, and then you're like,
wait a minute.
Timeline. I'm not even gonna make it. Yeah. So how did you reconcile? Is that something that you're still reconciling? Like,
I think you kind of still reconcile it. Like, the day I decided I was going to resign, I bawled. Yeah. Like, bawled on the drive home. Got home, sent my boss a message. It was like 7 p.m. There's a deadline. And I was like, no, my life is worth more than the deadline. Yeah. Everything else is worth more. And if I don't say it now, then I don't know what's tomorrow is gonna bring, and I can't keep holding it back.
Yeah.
And I was like, send her a text. I'm like, hey, can you chat? She's like, sure. And I'm like, no.
Like, I mean,
Phone call.
I need your eyes and ears, girl.
And I was like, I'm gonna resign. And she's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like it. And it was
God also makes ordained exits.
And there was like no like real follow-up or badgering about it.
Yeah.
And then like as soon as I let that go, then I had almost peace again in my world. So that's how I kind of knew that the decision was the right one for me, because I feel like if I, not necessarily that if I didn't, but like I would have still prayed about it. Like if they had come back with a counter offer, I would have been like, God, well, they're counter offering me. What should I do? Then he was going to be like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want this one or do you want this one? And I was going to be like,
good.
I know what I really want, God.
Yeah.
It's actually this. It's like, okay, cool.
Because God does.
Then
give
let's
us
go on the
agency
path
as
that
well.
you said. Yeah, he does actually give us agency. You're like, because I think we also go to God with, well, I know which decision I want to make. I just want to check which one you know.
Thank you, Tile Mara.
Just I want you to bless this one.
Yeah.
But even then, when you're like, it feels too, not like it feels too easy, but like, okay, this is actually not the one that I really need. This is the one. And it really went well. And then I resigned and it was fine and I handed back. I'm one of those people, I have like a really high work ethic. Even on the my literal last day,
Baby girl worked and
I still brought the
realized
laptop back because I couldn't give it to my boss because I still had work. And I was like, well, I don't want to, and it was also financial year end. And I was like, well,
I mean, the laptop
You
bringing back was
worked
beyond
towards
last
the
day,
end.
was it not?
yeah, I brought it back like the Monday. So I still had it for the whole weekend.
I mean, she had like,
And then, and I couldn't, so I was like, no, it's fine, I'll bring it back. There's nothing I'm going to do. I'm not going to do malice, guys. I don't want a criminal record. Like,
for a laptop.
I took an oath.
please.
I
For
took
a
an oath.
laptop.
I'm just going to give you back your things. That's fine. Here you go. Sharp grand. And then when I walked into my new environment, like, the effort that was made to welcome me also reaffirmed that this was like the right decision. Like there was a welcome sign, there was a cute little plant, and I was like, wow, this is so nice. This is so nice. Thanks, guys.
Some more war. This is more.
Yeah,
And
that's so good.
and it really felt like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I know, like, yes, maybe every time we enter into a new relationship, it can be like that, but that's how you know you're kind of like supposed to be there and you appreciate other little things. I mean, at the other office when I started there, it was also like, yay! I was like, we get cool laptops, we're all matching, you know? I was excited about that as well. So, like, it's to be true to those feelings as well, I think is part of the journey. Like, you need to honor that. And if you don't, boy, does it show up when you least expect it.
It will catch
So you'll
you.
be like, you
Oh,
know,
God.
cutting people who did not hurt you.
Yeah.
You know,
You're like,
bleeding
where
all
did that
over
come
them.
from?
You'll be like, oh,
Was that me?
I need to check myself. So yeah.
That is definitely something that I also wanted to go back to, because you mentioned how you can even find yourself getting upset for things that are just like, you're just upset about everything. And I think it's important to recognize those things that are like the sort of repercussion of what's actually happening inside of you, right? So the energy has to be let out some way, somehow, right? And then it kind of, you know, bursts out in moments in time, and it's like in people who are undeserving of that kind of an emotion, whether it's inflicting pain onto your own self, and it might not be physical pain, but maybe you like self-talk or starting to tell yourself,
or
that
even
you're
like,
less
I
than.
deserve to be in this kind of situation, and you don't.
Because I prayed for it, well, I guess I need to be, or whatever. For whatever reason, actually.
Yeah,
but you don't deserve to be mad. Did it take you time to realize those things that were like, sort of like a deference? Or were you able to recognize, no, man, I'm really getting upset, and I'm changing, like, fundamentally.
Yeah, it did, and then that's when I was like, well, I always knew it's like, I need to go back to therapy, but before I physically went back to therapy, it was like a whole year of I need to go back to therapy.
Yeah.
I need to go back to therapy. Then the more it was like, then there was like one incident, and I was like, this for me is my spiraling out of control.
Right.
So I need to go, and I literally made an appointment, and I sat there, and
Can we like unpack that a little bit? Because I think sometimes, like in my experience, like you get very used to being in survival mode for such a long time that you actually don't even know when it's building up and now it's spilling over and now I desperately need help, right? And like I think for me, an example of this, which is just, I mean, there's lots of examples, but a very clear example for me was when I went to go study in the UK, right? And I remember the first couple of days I was there, like I would check my phone to see where I was going and then put it away, and because I was like, first of all, I don't need y'all to know I'm myself, and secondly, I don't want somebody to run past me and snatch my phone, right? But then people around me were just like on their phones, checking that the light was open and then crossing the street, and then I had that click. I was like, oh, crime here isn't like that. Like crime here is set up differently. And literally, I felt a release in my spirit where I was like, whew. And I didn't realize until that moment how much I was carrying and just how much, when I'm driving, like everything, just the leaving the house to get to wherever I need to go and the thought process that goes into that.
Yeah.
And it's not to say like that same thought process doesn't happen for women living in other parts of the world, but just that transition from South Africa to Glasgow for that period of time, I was very conscious that my safety was I was sure of it. I was like, I left work at 10 p.m. and I walked to where I lived. Do you know what I mean? I didn't even think twice about, will I be fine? The most thing was like, I hope there's no drunk boys that have asked for my number. That was like the worst thing that could have happened, you know what I mean? But I didn't realize how much I was carrying until I was in an environment that was safe enough for me to not have that particular concern. And I think it's the same with whatever it is that you go through, that you carry the weight of that relationship, the work, being the older sister, being the person who has it together. And you might not necessarily know how to identify that, oh, now I'm actually beyond maybe my natural gifting or capacity as a person. I am now actually operating in survival. And now I'm actually in a downward spiral, you know? So if you kind of, like, what are those markers for you guys? Where you're like, oh, now I'm not okay. And because I know me, this is what I know when I know I'm not okay.
Yeah. I think for me, as a very active person, is when I isolate more than normal. So I become I have
an
a
introvert
very
stays at home.
Well, I consider myself introverted and extroverted, so I'm an ambivert, and around certain people I become extroverted. But when that introversion voice becomes even louder, where I am like, miss me, don't talk to me, please just like hide. That was when the voice is like the loudest. And then if I'm not getting outside to exercise, or if I'm not making my swimming. So the one thing throughout the whole thing, I was like, I'm not going to miss my swimming, because I really enjoyed the swimming. Yeah. It released me. It helped regulate my mood, you know, and I'd be like, you know, that was really good. I did well. I'm seeing improvement. And, you know, I got great feedback from my coach. And she'd always be like, please go slow. Like, I have to practice to swim slow, because in the bigger picture of the things that I want to do, I need to learn how to conserve energy, and I need to not go fast. Like, I'm like, go. Yeah. And she's like, go slowly. Take your time.
Yes.
Please take your time.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself.
Sorry.
But it's also like giving yourself the opportunity to, first of all, suck at something and to learn and listen to the input. Not like what you want to do, like listen to what the person is telling you. I think like you have to be in tune with yourself and know who you are, even though you're going to evolve. Yeah. But also know that you're going to evolve, and there's things that are going to excite you, and, you know, like keep feeding those in a healthy way. Yes. Not being out on the streets for all times of the night. Yeah. Because it's exciting. Yes, it can be exciting for a while, but it's also going to make you tired. Yeah. Because other parts of your life are going to be like, actually, that doesn't fit in. Like, me being out all night, knowing very well that I'd much rather be running in the morning, it don't make sense.
Not beneficial. Yeah.
So, yeah. Just being in tune with myself.
That's so true. And I think the more, it's a muscle that you exercise.
Yes.
Like, the more you get used to being in tune
True
with
story.
yourself, the better you get at it. And you can kind of instantly go like, oh, I feel off center. Even to the point of going, I'm okay, but I met that person and for some reason I just felt off center. Or I walked into this environment and I immediately felt off center.
Yeah.
And I think that's the benefit of carving out time with yourself, that it requires you to kind of shut down external noises and influences and go into self and be like, okay, who am I? What do I want? What do I desire? Where am I going? What am I working on? And specifically, what is God saying to me? Like, what do I feel like I am called to, and what are the convictions that I am then therefore working towards? Because I think then you are graced for that particular thing. And I think oftentimes that's where people miss it, that they look at, for example, walking in her grace, and they're like, how come she can train so much? Like, without realizing that she's intentionally carving out that space, but she's also graced for that space because that's where she goes to refill. And I think the better we get at carving out space, the better we get at identifying when we're off center. You know? So like, for example, I know that if I lose reading time, like if I can go through a week and go, I haven't touched a book, I'm like, whoa, what is going on? Why have I not?
I'm not okay.
I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Or if I haven't had the time in a week to like write in my gratitude journal, I know that, okay, balance yourself, baby girl. What is happening, you know? And even as somebody who travels to like speak and things like that, is going, okay, how much time have I been at home actually? Like, when was the last time I slept in my bed? Yes, because that grounding is very important. And then being around people who ground me as well is very important. Like, I can't go long without a hug. Like, not from anybody. Like, you know, sometimes I'm like, I need my mother's hug. I don't need any other hug. What?
Oh, you need mom's hug.
I can specifically be like, I need my mom's hug. There's no other hug. I don't know what she does when she hugs me. She just,
oh, that's sweet.
she reminds me of when I was a baby.
That's cute, man.
I don't
That's
consciously
so
know it,
nice.
but I think subconsciously.
Yeah.
There's a way she pats my back that I'm just like, yeah, no, you
That's
raised
the
me.
one.
That's the hug I needed.
That's the one I got from the day I arrived.
Completely. And I think even with them, I think the beauty of having people around you that ground you is that I can walk through the door and she immediately knows, like, okay, you're not okay.
Yeah.
And you need those kinds of people where you don't have to explain, but they can go like, I can tell you're off center.
It literally
So
is
that-
like a parallel to what Nqabisa was saying, that like she had this friend who immediately saw, whether it was immediate or not, fine, maybe we don't know, but you had that friend who saw that like, my girl actually needs me.
Yeah.
Like, my girl needs, and
something.
I have to be a friend right now. Like in everything that I'm about to do, I need to actually fill that need as much as I know how to, or in the capacity that I know how to.
Completely.
Which is beautiful. I think also what's lovely to hear is how we're all so different also in what it is.
Like
Because for me,
yeah.
if I don't have time in the week to spend by myself, completely
How about it
away,
misses by myself?
I need to be alone. And you
And
don't understand
that's
how
all
so
the
many
way.
times they are like, even with my friends, I have to tell them like, I literally didn't even want to check my phone. I didn't know where it was because it was that moment or that day where and genuinely, I mean, I know this might sound insane, but like I genuinely don't do I don't even put pressure on myself to take a shower. Like I'm just like, no, I will eat because food is necessary. And then everything else is just a maybe.
Yeah.
And I need that time because for some reason, like, I really like being in my mind. And it's something that I've realized, like, a lot of people don't like that much. Like, and not that people are trying to run away from being by themselves.
And
It's
sometimes
just,
you are, be honest with yourself.
yeah, sometimes you are. And then you also realize sometimes, like, the people that I've spoken to, in a sense, would tell me that, like, overthinking is a problem. You know what I mean? Or, you know, when you're left alone with your thoughts, you realize you don't even have that many thoughts. And then you're just bored. And I mean, I don't want you to be bored. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there are actual valid reasons why people are like, I could never do that. And then I'm like, oh, sure, no, that's no problem. But for me,
I don't trust nobody that doesn't spend time by themselves.
I go into my mind and it is just the most amazing, magical place. And it kind of centers me for the rest of my life because, and it also kind of like helps me to like understand the disparities in my life as well. Because I'm also one of those people who sometimes I can experience something, but I don't process it. So if I don't take the time to be alone so that I can actually process what happened to me, I might end up being hurt by something. And that pain comes out later. And I wouldn't even know why I'm crying that day. Like, I'll just be really sad. And I wouldn't really know how or where we're digging into to get to the depth of this pain.
Yeah.
So I take that time to like really assess, oh, this is what the expectation that I had of my life, this is what I thought things were going to turn out to be, and they didn't. How do I feel about this?
Yeah.
And then I unpack it, then I'll just sit and I'll watch a movie. You know, just like, let's just have it.
I suppose the benefits of being a psychology.
But like, dare put a journal in front of me, babes. I've probably had like 20 journals.
And none of them have been utilized.
2 pages each. 2 pages. And the first page is like, in Jesus' name, I will be writing in here daily. And I will Is a lie every time.
I hear you talking that never happened.
Your journal, and I'm like, I don't even know where those books are.
I got journals galore. And I can even look at my journal and be like, oh yeah, I remember that year. Hey, it was. Or whatever.
I don't.
Okay.
Oh, now I start running, and I'm like, I'm not running. I did the chat.
This meme. Yeah. I want to wrap up with this question. I know we don't necessarily have an answer for this, but I think maybe people might be wondering, when we talk about a time for things and a season.
Yeah.
How long is a season?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, and then also when you think about the timing for things, especially because you're not the one who sends yourself into that period, right? Are there things for you that are a marker of the season is now changing, or the time of this thing that I maybe even prayed for like last year, but now God has decided this is the time for that thing to happen, you know? So are there things that you look at that give you indicators for this is the season, this is the time?
I would like to share my revelation in that sense. I believe very much in principle. I'm a very principled person, and I believe that I see God in principle. So how he does one thing for me, you can generally set that as a rule for how he does other things. Yeah. That's the way that I am. So in this particular conversation,
very good methodology.
We're talking about seasons, right? And seasons in the actual physical sense, when there's a shift from, you know, summer into autumn, which moves into winter, always comes with warning signs. And that's the thing that, like, I find, like, it's something that I'm trying to change even in myself. Yeah. Where, let's take the autumn going into winter scenario. You start to, but lots of trees are now bare. The air is getting a little bit crisp. And I think what happens in our lives, when our autumn is turning into a winter, I don't know why we want it to remain autumn, or like we want...
Because then you didn't get a warning.
Somehow you feel in your heart...
All of a sudden the leaves started
falling. If I pray harder...
Let me just grab a jersey. It's getting crisp.
Let
me just grab a jersey.
You feel like if you pray and then you just...
Just grab a jersey.
Yeah. And I feel like you still get those warning signs. You get warning signs. I don't think I've ever had a conversation where a season was shifting in my life, or a season was shifting in the life of someone that I love, where we did not have a period of time where we were talking about the warning signs. I genuinely don't think that has ever happened.
Yeah.
We sit and we conversate about, friend, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, yes. But you don't go get the jersey. No, friend, I think I'm going to pray about this relationship a little bit longer. It's going to be okay. Friend, I don't like the way he spoke to me, and I never want anyone to speak to me like that. But you know what? We said we're going to get married. So, hey, winter is coming. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Girl, I hear you loud and clear.
The season is very good. Warning you.
Yeah.
Now you get into winter, and you're freezing cold. You didn't get your heater.
You didn't get the juice.
You didn't get a hot water bottle.
With the electric blanket.
You did not shift yourself.
You didn't align yourself to the new.
To the new. And now you're in pain. Now we're actually in the pain point. And look, I'm not saying like, well, church, or that's your own situation. Pain is still pain. I don't want you to be in pain.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, now we have to like fix the situation. But we could have avoided this if you had just taken the warning signs. And that's genuinely something that I'm praying about. I'm like, God, oh my goodness, it's so difficult. Like when I see it in the physical, because I'm so used to seasons changing physically now, becomes like second nature.
Yeah.
I have not developed that character enough in myself on an inner person level to be as quick to respond. And I'm like, God, help me.
God, that's so good.
That is really good.
That is really good.
Help me, Lord.
I think my number one prayer is like, I'm always like, God, I want this. But more than anything, just discernment.
Yeah.
I just want discernment.
Yeah.
Jeez. Such a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long a time is or season is, like, I never know.
Yeah.
But I know that when I feel unsettled, that's a call for me to calm down. And so what I'm very deliberate about is the moment that I feel unsettled is to shut down. So to kind of go, okay, cool. I'm not going out this weekend. I'm not doing that. If it's not necessary to do, if it's not already been booked and paid for, I won't do it.
Yeah.
And I'll wind down. I make sure to be at home, off my phone, and just like ground, and then be like, okay, what do I need to see? What questions do I need to be asking? And oftentimes I find that God doesn't always wait long to respond.
No.
Like, yes, sometimes there are like a 21-day period for that fast or a 40-day fast, and yes, sometimes those seasons are necessary depending on the task at hand. But I think oftentimes what we miss is that God desires more to pour into us than what we desire to be poured into.
Yeah.
And he's like, just leave me. So I found that whenever I've deliberately taken the time to get away and just be at home, be centered, and just be in God's presence, and that for me, it's nothing major. It's literally just putting on worship music, taking more time to literally sit with the scripture. Even like reading a book that uplifts my faith, even talking to my parents. Sometimes like spending time with God for me is talking to my parents. And then cheeky, somebody in the house is just like, I was thinking 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you, Or I will go somewhere unexpectedly. That one time I choose to leave the house, and I'll bump into somebody, and they'll be like, I just wanted to tell you this, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Or like I'll get into a conversation that is so random that I'm like, this is never something I would discuss with a person that I do not know. And then that kind of conversation will have a lot of answers in it. So I think being confident and comfortable enough to take the time and trusting that things aren't going to fall apart by you being away is one, a show of confidence in God, and then two, an opportunity for separation to hear better. And I think what we see consistently in the Bible is that anytime God has spoken to people, it has been in separation. Like there's not a lot of people that have been given a message in the midst of a thing.
The crowd is like,
like people were often exactly. So I think just an encouragement to people to say, like, especially if you don't know what time or season you're in at the moment, and you have no idea what God expects from you in this season, and you're also like, what do I expect from myself in this season? To just take the time and breathe. And if you are seeing flames, which we smoke amounts, also just know that flames don't last forever. Like, lizo cheeky vili, and things will be better. And there's going to be an appointed time when things are better. And with that, I think that concludes this episode.
It does.
Thank you so much for joining us on Bread and Wine. All our handles are at the bottom, so please connect with us on Instagram. And please like and follow our page. And if you have any questions, comment below. We would like to hear from you on your personal experience and journey with timing and seasons in your life. Cheers.
Bye.